Welcome to DAExMachiNation. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Folks, and thank you all for joining us on another edition of DAExMachiNation. In the house with me is Robbie Jed Rains. Doc is out with his son tonight, and Steve is out with his wife tonight. And they both got family stuff going on, so you're just going to have me and my semi-twin redneck brother from South Carolina. So you have to just put up with the two of us tonight. But I think we're going to be able to keep you all entertained. We got some good encounter stories we're going to be talking about, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Robbie, how the hell are you doing, brother?
Doing good. How are you?
Oh, live and kicking so far, but it's early.
That's true.
What have you been up to today, brother?
Yard work. Saturdays is, with all the rain we've been having during the week around here, Saturdays has been my day to catch up and clear my jungle out of my yard.
Yeah, I've still got a bunch of down branches in the backyard from that round of storms that went through. So I'm going to have to see if my neighbor will let me borrow his wood chipper, because I got a bunch of crap to chip up.
Yeah, I went and made my first purchase out of my first book payment. I went and bought a pole saw to kind of help me clean some of the stuff up around the edges of the house and all that. So yeah, tell me you're a redneck without telling me you're a redneck.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
First purchase after getting paid as an author is he goes and buys an electric pole saw. It is what it is.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate that, brother. 3D says, did you go to Milwaukee, Robbie?
Nope, not Milwaukee.
Milwaukee saw?
I mean, did I get no, I couldn't afford a Milwaukee. I had to go to Harbor Freight.
Harbor Freight works.
Yeah.
Kathy Steen says, we had such a wonderful time last Wednesday. It'll be another great night. Well, I sure hope so. Thank you so much. And we will do our best to keep you all entertained. We're going to be talking about reports from just kind of all over, really. And Robbie's got a good one already in the pipeline. I'm thinking I'm going to let him start it out. But what we're going to do was kind of like what we did the other night. Some of these are shorter encounters, because not every encounter we get is, like the one that I read about the mushroom hunter. Not all of them are like that. Now we do get our share of interesting ones, but most of the ones we get are just your more garden variety. I saw one walk through my backyard kind of encounter, but we're going to be going through looking for some of the kind of more interesting ones. So bear with us as we dig through these reports and decide which ones we're going to read. But Robbie's already got a couple set up, so I'm going to let him jump in with both feet and go first.
All right, we roll back up to the top. Start with this first one. Excuse me. All right, this is just titled Bigfoot Sighting, Report 3050. A graceful creature ran by a man when he was 15. This is from the Hood River County in Oregon, and I think it was the Hood National Forest as well. It's a classification sighting of A, which means it was actual visual sighting. And he said, it starts off, says the season was fall, and this is from October 14th of 1970. So I need to have access to a map of Oregon, which was not available at the moment. But we were very near a boundary of the wilderness area in which I believe it was not legal to hunt at the time. We were just off Highway 30, I believe. I was 15 years old, deer hunting east of Mount Hood National Wilderness Area in Oregon. It was 1970. My dad had stuck me on a huge stump, and then he went off to my right, and our neighbor, W, went off to my left. The stump partially embraced me like a recliner. It was huge. Also, it was a good place to sit for a long time. I had a view of the meadow and heavy brush. Large Douglas firs bordered the area, perhaps about 3 acres worth. This was back when large fir trees still existed, and these were being logged in abundance. I had never heard of Bigfoot, never read anything about him, or had any idea whatsoever that such things existed in the woods. Now, I'm very comfortable in the woods. I was trusted enough by my father as they left me with a 303 British.
I have one of them. Good rifle.
Yep. I thought of you exactly when I read that. I was like, huh, DA's got one of them. After about 2 hours.
That thing don't knock it down. It ain't going down.
Yeah, that's true. That's a big round. I think that's what Colonel Patterson had in when he was hunting the lines of Savo too, wasn't it?
I think so. It was an infield for sure. But that soft nose 303 round, I've known guys who've taken elk with those.
So at least he had a big enough gun, but
that's enough gun to get it done.
That's the only time he mentions the gun. So this was not because he didn't really even. You'll hear it in just a second because I've already proofread this one it's like I've not done in the past, so we don't have a illegal drug purchase midway through the story like we had before. After about 2 hours, I heard a rustle off to my right. I clicked the safety off and slowly moved my gun and my body to see. Immediately, I thought I saw my father running at full speed through the woods. Odd behavior, but I clicked my safety back on and watched what I thought was my dad run through the brush. He ran about 50 feet in front of me from my right to left. The heavy brush come up to his chest area, and heavy steam was coming out in regular intervals as he ran. It was quite a sight. I didn't understand why the branches that were making contact weren't making the scraping noise on his parka. My dad wore a rust-colored parka that was popular at the time. One thing he never did, though, was wear a hood, but it appeared as though Dad had his hood up while he was running through the woods. That was odd. My dad was an athlete and physically fit for most of his life. He played all sports, and I thought he was particularly athletic looking running through the woods at this time with amazing grace. I sat there pondering what had just happened when I heard another crashing noise start from my right again. I look, and there's Dad stomping through the woods, making all kinds of noise. He was still hunting. I was stunned to see him on my right as I had just seen him pass from my view on my left. Now he looks really tiny, and the brush is about 1 or 2 feet over his head. He looks small, weak, and definitely not athletic. I could hear his every footstep. I was 15, as I said earlier, too young, I think, to be really scared of what was going on. I know every type of animal in the woods, and I was struggling with what I just seen. The hunt had come to a close as Dad is exhausted, still confused. I looked at him and said, "Dad, did you just run by here?" Dad replies, "Are you kidding? I can barely stand up out here." Then I explained that something had run by me. I thought it was you. Only when I saw you did I realize what I saw was huge, fast, and very powerful. I described to my dad what I had seen. I wasn't frightened, but what I saw was an intelligent, human-looking animal running with purpose, speed, grace, and power. The kind of thing you find from creatures in nature. Although he was running fast, the noise was very minimal. He made less noise running than my dad did walking. About 6 months later, I was reading a story in a magazine about some kids in the Dallas, Oregon area chasing and shooting a creature. My blood went cold. It was then that I realized what I'd seen. In the subsequent years, I have seen numerous stories about the creature. Science says without proof they don't exist. Normal people are labeled as kooks, or they saw a bear, deer, elk, or whatever else. I know exactly what I saw, and I know Bigfoot exists because I have seen one running like the wind.
That one kind of reminds me of the story that was on, was it Monsters and Mysteries, where the two kids were in the trailer and kept seeing one? Kind of reminds me a little bit.
The one where the dad and the stepmom, or the mom and the stepdad had left them.
Yeah, they had to hide in the cooler or something like that.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that story. I don't know why, it just kind of does. That's a good story, though. I really like it.
But he didn't. The reason I like that story and what brought me to that one, or drew me to that one, was the fact he said he didn't have any idea. He didn't have any preconceived notions or anything. He's just out there hunting, thinking he's not going to see anything. So he didn't have that. And of course, it's in the 70s, so you didn't have things the way it is now, but he didn't have that preconceived notion that everything was a bear. Like he mentioned in there, he saw something running. He thought it was his dad. Oh, what?
Because it didn't run like a bear.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what Dad's doing, and then sees Dad. Whoa, hell, that wasn't Dad.
Right. Arkansas Hog Hunter said, DA, did you see the trail cam photos of the Black Panther that were taken over the weekend in Hollister, a few miles across the hill from me? Hollister's just down the road. We drove through Hollister, Robbie. It's right over there by Branson. There's trail cam footage of a Black Panther, and it's a melanistic mountain lion. You can tell by the tail, but they've got trail cam footage. And as soon as I saw that, I go, deny that now, Missouri Department of Conservation. But I guarantee you, they're like, oh, it was a fluke or somebody's pet that escaped or something like that. But yeah, there's footage floating around now that was taken at Hollister, Missouri, which is 35, 40 miles away from here, if that. And Black Panther right there on the trail cam.
Yeah, I think I saw that. The one he's talking about.
I think I had shared it on my Facebook, or Annette shared it. One of the two.
I think I did see it on your feed. But yeah, I like that story because, well, number one, it's very believable, and it's not. The guy didn't write it to get his 15 minutes of fame or anything like that.
He initially thought it was his dad.
Yeah, and it's just and he's just sitting there at 15 years old hunting, and all of a sudden, why is Dad running? Is he running a deer? He's just sitting there chilling out. He's not scared. He's not, he had a good encounter, and then Dad shows up, and it's like, well, damn, that wasn't my dad, because then you can see in the story how he wrote it. You can see how his mind started reasoning stuff out. Wait a minute, there was no sound, or very minimal sound. The brush is 1 to 2 feet over the top of Dad's head. When this one, the brush was up to its chest area. So he starts reasoning things out. And then later on, when he starts hearing about the legend and starts seeing stuff, he's like, yeah, that's what I saw. So I like he didn't have any preconceived notions, and he was able to work everything out.
Yeah. Knightley, you're correct. It was Terror in the Woods. I got the wrong show. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but it was a good one.
Yeah, that was a spooky story too, because I think they had went out in the woods where they wasn't supposed to, and then they went out
to go, got chased back to the house, and didn't it like at one point throw a concrete block through the side of the trailer?
I think so, or either knocked or smacked the glass, knocked the glass out, or did something that caused some damage. And
trailer houses, man, they're just little aluminum and some paneling. Yeah, you could put something through. I mean, you could punch a gunshot through one so easy. I don't see why, something as strong as a Bigfoot couldn't chuck a rock right through one.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not, and they're not made with like 2x4. I mean, it's not good construction. Have you ever seen one tore apart? I mean, you're lucky if you get.
Hey, brother, I'm not Missouri. I've seen hundreds of them torn apart by tornadoes.
Well, touche. But you're lucky if you get a 1x2 every. They're not 16 inches on center. Believe me. And
most of it's just like aluminum tracking.
Yep.
Well, there's no studs or anything like that.
I've seen those things being made, and basically what they do is they run the blank floor through, and they run a whole big sheet of carpet on there and cut it off, and then they cut out everything, because you can find 5-6 different layers of things lined up in there. So something like a Bigfoot would be able to just
punch through that. And the doors, I mean, you could grab the door and force it open by hand, and you don't have to be very strong to do that. Those trailers are not built solidly. They're not.
They're not built for security or anything like that. It is what it is.
Arkansas Hog Hunter says, I put my whole arm through a wall a few times in them old trailers. Yeah, they were built, not much better than cracker boxes. They were cheap. And hell, I grew up living in one for a good number of years, but I've lived in one more than once. It's just
Well, I think most of them are used quarter inch. I think most of them use quarter inch sheetrock versus half inch, like most houses have. So
I've got to save weight because it's got to be mobile.
Yep. Because the heavier it is, the more it costs to move it.
Yeah. Jeremy Lee says DA comments won't let me post it. Can you send it to me? Maybe Facebook Messenger would be best. I'll bring up my Facebook. I usually close Facebook down during the show because I just get flooded with messages. But I'll open my Facebook Messenger, and if you can send that to me, I'll keep an eye out for it. If you don't have me on Facebook, I guess email them. Just let me know that you emailed them, and then I'll bring them up. I thought I had them on Facebook, but I can't find them now. I know I had those pictures somewhere, but I have not seen them. I went back and looked at the usual places, and I do not see them. Let me scroll down just a hair and see if, because I know I got tagged in it a couple of times. I'm not seeing it. God dang it. Okay, if somebody knows where those images of that Black Panther, you can send those to me on Facebook. That would be awesome, and I can share them. Because I've scrolled down pretty far, and I'm not seeing them at all. So they've disappeared off my feed. Okay, I suppose it's my turn to read a story. This one's for Miss Lene as a welcome back. Miss Lene, this one's in your neck of the woods. This is over in I believe it's Johnson County, Illinois, near the Shawnee National Forest. Says this happened in the woods near Reevesville, Illinois, about 10 miles north of Metropolis, Illinois. So I've had 2 encounters, both when I was about 15, and both occurred in the wooded hills near the home where I grew up. The first incident was an abandoned cabin where 4 friends and I hiked to one night. 3 of my friends were on the porch when they ran inside screaming, "We got to get the hell out of here. We just saw something." They were frantic, and when I finally got them to tell me what they saw, I didn't believe them at first until I saw these 2 macho guys about to cry. They said it was about 7 feet tall, dark hair, and sort of hunched over. They heard it in the woods to the left and saw it run across the trail into the woods to the right. Needless to say, we got the hell out of there and never went back to that cabin at night. The second incident occurred about 6 months after that. I was staying the night at my friend's house, Sheila, who was one of the 3 people who saw the Bigfoot. She lived about 3/4 of a mile from the cabin. At about 1 or 2 a.m., we'd both had to pee and decided to just go out the back door so we wouldn't wake her parents. That's different. Those are definitely country girls. The backyard was a field of head-high weeds that had grown up about 5 feet from the door. When we had almost finished doing our duty, we heard strange noises like nothing we'd ever heard before. It sounded like growling, snorting, and huffing, and was about 30 feet away. It seemed like forever that we stood there listening to it. Either we were trying to figure out what it was out there, or we couldn't believe what we were hearing. My pants were still around my knees. Then it started to run toward us. It definitely had 2 feet. It came crashing through the weeds and sounded like a person running, but with heavier footfalls. We ran for the door, not looking back. I personally didn't want to see it. It was still chasing us as we slammed the back door, too close for comfort. When we slammed the door, I could smell something terrible in the air. We ran into her room, and a couple of minutes later, we heard it outside her window. We woke her parents up, but they didn't believe us, and we could not find any prints around the backyard or her window. I guess because the ground was dry. I guess it was because the ground was dry. I know what I heard, and my friend believes what she saw and heard. No one will ever change our minds. In the first incident, it was either oblivious to our presence or was running away. In the second incident, it was chasing us. Its intent was not known, but it probably wasn't going to have a pleasant conversation with us. Teenage girls going to the bathroom outside probably attracted it.
Yeah. About to say that is the definition of getting caught with your pants down.
No kidding.
But I mean, minus the whole encounter, how many people have that fear of getting caught in a situation like that when you can't do anything about it because you're in that vulnerable situation. How she must have felt in that situation and knew something was coming and just, that
would have been terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, it'd been terrifying regardless of the situation, but that's just even worse.
I remember when I was a kid living on the farm, it was not anything uncommon at all for one of us boys to walk out off the back porch and pee in the yard. I knew of me and my sisters doing it, but it wouldn't have surprised me out. They were all big.
My real dad first bought the house he lives in now, or lived in until this divorce here recently. But when they first bought that house, there was not a bathroom inside the house. When we first moved in up there, we had to go outside to the outhouse, and that's, I mean, not far from where that howl that we keep playing. Obviously, that this was years and years and years and years ago, but still, it's in that same general area. So there was plenty of times, and it wasn't like just right outside the door. They didn't put outhouses. I don't know if anybody.
Outhouses were away from the house, so they didn't.
They weren't. You didn't walk outside the door and walk right into it. I mean, it was a good 50 to 100 feet away from the house. I mean, down next to the barn where the horses were. So I mean, if you went out at night, you had a walk to go down to the outhouse.
Yeah, and not only was it that for hygiene's sake, but because for the smell. I mean, you didn't want that. We my grandpa, they still had an old outhouse on theirs. They did have indoor plumbing, but my dad said they didn't get it until I was just a little kid, so it would have been early 70s. But he kept a bag of lime in the outhouse, and every time they would do their business, they'd throw a scoop full of lime down on it.
I had the advantage over my two stepsisters because if I just had to pee, I could just step out the back door. If they had to pee, they still had to go down to the outhouse. So,
yeah, we usually had a designated tree. Well, I'm the youngest of 11 kids, and well, even though several of my older siblings were already adults and moved out, when I was a kid, there were still like 7 of us at home. And, with 4 sisters, yeah, the bathrooms were always taken. So, it was not uncommon for us to just go out the backyard, walk down by the apple trees and let it go.
Yep. Like what Rodney said, though, if you can't pee off your back porch, your neighbors are too close.
Dang right. And I would definitely like to live out on a farm again.
Oh yeah.
I got a couple guys said they sent it on Messenger. There it is. Okay, I see it. Okay. Arkansas said he sent it, and so did Jeremy Lee. I don't see anything from Arkansas, and Jeremy Lee's didn't come through. It's I got some text, but I didn't get any images. Oh, he sent he sent the okay, I was my mistake. He sent the encounter. Okay, yeah, okay. That my mistake about that. Sorry about that, Jeremy. But Arkansas said he'd sent, I guess, the panther pictures, but I didn't get them. Unless he sent them. Let me check my my author page. Might have sent them there. So give me just a second. Let me swap over.
Speaking of author page, while you're looking for that, there's been a redo.
I went to my it went to my author page, which I can access on my phone. Let me see if I can forward those to myself. That way I can get them onto the. What the heck? My phone's acting stupid. Okay. Okay, in theory, I should have those now. Okay. I have to move this so I can get it on another screen. Sorry. Okay. Let me share the images. And again, these were taken at Hollister, Missouri, which is just on the other side of Branson. Look at the tail on that son of a gun.
Dude, I don't think that's a mountain lion. I think that's a leopard.
I thought it was by the tail.
No, look at the face.
Hold on, let me bring that back up.
Bring that face back up. That ain't a mountain lion. That's a dang leopard, dude.
Dude, you're
I would
right.
bet you. I would bet you money that's a leopard. I mean, look, you can see the spots on it, but look at the shape of that face. That's a leopard or possibly a jaguar.
I thought it was a mountain lion. Because the only one I remembered looking at was this one, where you can really see the tail. But even here, you can kind of see the spots. Let me download. Let me save both of these images, and then I can pull them up and then zoom in on them. So let me do that.
Yeah, that's a freaking leopard.
Let me bring those up. Oh, dang it! Come on now. Don't do that to me. Okay, here we go. I got it pulled up. Now I can blow the images up. Here we go. Yeah, you can see the spots on its face and its fur. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a leopard. What the hell's a leopard doing in Hollister, Missouri?
I have no idea, but that's not a panther, cougar, or mountain lion for sure. Shape of the heads, you know, mountain lions and cougars and panthers, their noses are a lot shorter than that, and the ears are a little bit different shape. That's 100% either a leopard or a jaguar. I mean, I've seen people saying Ryan saying it could be a black jaguar. I mean, but jaguars and leopards are in the same genus. They're, you know, jaguars are just a little bit smaller than leopards.
Yeah, well, you can definitely see the spots in it.
Yeah.
I mean, even in this one, you can see the spots here on its side and on its neck. This is a melanistic jaguar or leopard.
Yep. And really, the only way you could tell is if you could see how big it is. You could tell if it was a jaguar or leopard, because that's the only. Sometimes
tail. What if it's a hybrid?
It could be. I mean, honestly though,
because the tail looks like a mountain lion tail to me. That thick rope tail.
But it would make more sense if it was a jaguar than it was if it was a leopard. Because
they've been saying a long time that jaguars have been coming north. They've been seeing them crossing the border in Texas for years.
They're native to South America, so that would make more sense than a leopard. But to me, the face and the head looks more leopard than it does jaguar. But there again, like you said, it could be a hybrid of the two.
Yeah,
I mean, big cats made all the time. And
Bobby Presnell says black jaguars are and were native to the Americas. Thank you, Miss Lene. Dr. 45 says the body build suggests leopard. Yeah, now that I'm really looking at it, you know, the main reason I thought it was a mountain lion was the tail. But now that I've got these brought in close, because I remember the only time I've looked at these before was on my phone. Seeing a lot more detail on the big screen than I saw on my phone. And granted, this is a grainy image from a trail cam. Which one, cat species has the hump right here?
Well, they can all. That's just his shoulder blades where he's got his head bent over. Now looking at, I think that's a jaguar.
I think you're probably right.
Hold on, I'm gonna send you an image to the chat.
Okay. Through co-host.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Oop, wrong one.
Okay. All right, I'm going to bring those two images up. I'm going to try to bring them up side by side.
I'm sending. That's what I'm sending you. Is a side by side of both of a leopard and a jaguar, and it's got their names above. So now they're not black. They're normal colored, but just that's what I just sent you. So pull that up and look at it, and you can tell the. Did you get it?
Hold on. Yeah, I'm trying to bring up a couple of them at the same time. Okay. Yeah, I got that saved. Let me bring these images up. I'm going to bring all three of them up at the same time. Actually, I'm trying to bring. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me share the screen. And this has all of those images up, including the one from. There we go. Okay, the one in the middle is the one from the trail cam.
Yeah.
Those
Look at
the Jaguar.
Yep. So I say, look at the one on the far right, the black Jaguar, and then look at the normal Jaguar, and then look at the middle. That's a Jaguar.
How big's
It's definitely not.
Get.
Let me see.
Just Ryan says that thing basically hugged the Gulf side of Mexico from Yucatan all the way to where that picture was taken. Well, that picture was taken in southern Missouri. That thing traveled a hell of a long way, assuming, well, I guess we can't rule out the possibility that it might have escaped from a private collection.
Typically 5 to 8 feet long from nose to tail, and they weigh between 110 and 250 pounds.
That'll take a kid.
Yeah. That'll take some adults.
Yeah, 250-pound cat. Okay, let's say mid-range on that, a 200-pound cat. Yeah, unless you're very well armed and alert. Yeah, I mean, even if you've got a gun and that thing gets the jump on you, you're probably not getting that gun out.
Which I'm sure it hunts a lot like, since it shares a lot of, it's in the same genus as a leopard. I'm sure it hunts from above.
An ambush predator.
Yep. And I mean, you're talking about a cat that hunts caiman successfully in South America. Will jump in a river and bite a 6 or 7 foot caiman in the back of the neck and kill it and drag it up out of the water.
Hillary says the head shape gives it away. I think you're right. I think for whatever reasons we can't explain, that's a freaking Jaguar here in Missouri.
Yep.
And Hollister ain't far from me.
That's 100% a black Jaguar.
You know what that's close to? Hollister?
If you say Moon Valley.
From Combs Ferry.
Oh, Combs Ferry. Well, at least you're in the middle of
Hop
the
and
lake
skip
out there.
from Ferry. Dr. 45 says jaguars do hunt people. They're very smart. Big cats tend to be very smart and smart hunters.
I would say most all big cats are have hunted humans at times. I don't think there's any big cat species out here,
including a certain big cat species that somebody's currently writing about.
I don't know. Maybe.
That would be.
Who knows? Maybe they just have to tune in and find out. But honestly, I don't think there's a big cat species alive today that hasn't
hunted people
at some point.
Well, even house cats will eat people. I mean, how many times have you talked about crime scenes where a house cat has already started eating people?
Yep.
You ain't got to be dead long before the house cat goes through your fingers, your cheeks, your ears, and your nose, and lips. Any of those soft tissues. N4 UPD says now you'll have something else to look out for when you go cryptid hunting. Yeah, someone's going to be scanning the trees.
Well, we already pretty much scanned the trees, or we wouldn't have found the deer hide.
But especially if we've got the thermal out there, we need to be watching for cat shapes, not just
people shapes.
Just humanoid or dog shapes. Yeah. Said, can you show the pic Hillary sent me? Hillary, did you send that in Facebook Messenger?
The pic that Hillary sent is one you just put up on the far right because she sent it to me too.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah, the black jaguar. That's what. Unless she sent another one, because she sent that one to me too. So,
Kevin says, ironically, it could explain deer in trees. True, but the places where we found deer kills up in trees, the trees were too small to support a big cat.
That tree was not going to support a 200, or even 110-pound cat.
Yeah, it was not a big tree. And the way it was kind of twisted around the little branches, and those branches were like pencil size. The way that the skin was kind of looped around those branches, the old cat did that. Hey, House is in the house. What's up, brother?
House!
Angela Moore says it's from Argentina looking for T-Moden. Yeah, Cajun Dog says hogs too. Yeah, we got to watch out for hogs too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely freaks me out. Like I said, the only time I'd looked at those images, those trail cam images, was on my phone. I just thought big mountain lion because of that tail, but yeah, that's a freaking jaguar.
Yeah, when you look at it close and look at the face, you can tell that's not a cougar or a puma or mountain lion, whatever you want to call it.
Arkansas Hog Hunter says one of the worst serial attacks in history was the man-eating leopard of Nepal that was killed by Jim Corbett. It killed several hundred people. Dr. 45 says Branson area breaking news. Well, it ain't a mountain lion. And Josh Dalton says Marglin's got some explaining to do. Marglin always has some explaining to do. If there's shenanigans to be had, he's involved in them. Robert D says they found elk parts up a tree and about 10 feet up. But you would still think it would need to be a big enough tree to support the animal, because the tree. Well, hell, let me just bring up the picture. I will go get the pictures from Combs Ferry, and I'll get that one where Steve's standing next to it, where you've got the scale. So give me just a second to find that folder. I know it's in this drive. Just got to find it. Okay, let me find that exact picture. I want the picture of Steve. And even if it, that still doesn't explain the trout, the Missouri tree trout. Okay. Let me bring this up. Share the camera. Share the screen. Okay, in this picture, you can see Steve. Let me bring it up a little bit. That tree is literally only about that big around, and those branches are too small for it to have supported any kind of big cat. Even a bobcat would have had trouble climbing that, and we would see claw marks all over the tree where they would climb. That is wrapped around that branch.
And every time somebody has said big cat, I have said I looked around that tree, that entire tree. There were no claw marks anywhere on that tree to indicate that a big cat had climbed up that tree. There was no tracks around that of any kind of cat at all.
Hmm.
Smilodon populator much? I don't know where that's coming from or anything, but you know.
Yeah, you can tell by looking at this. I mean, that tree is literally only about yay big around, like the diameter of a softball, maybe.
And if you look at the way that
Just like pencil size.
A cat the size of what we just showed a picture of is not going to be able to get through those limbs, get around those limbs the way they're all placed, and leave that carcass hanging the way it's hanging.
And it's looped around. Well, heck, you can see right there, it's looped around that branch.
Yep. Nope, wouldn't support the man bear pig either, Greg.
Probably not. Oh, wasn't trying to play that. I was trying to.
Where were we at then? Was that Combs Ferry?
Yeah, that was Combs Ferry.
I don't remember us doing that. What what were we talking about?
Let me see how it is. I might just play it. Hey, I can upload it. All right, I will upload it. This has never been played anywhere because I haven't uploaded it before.
I forgot we did that.
I did too. This was recorded last July. As soon as it uploads, it's got to upload and then clear. But as soon as it uploads and clears, I'll just play it.
Neil just got in that. I wanted to say, Neil, thank you for standing up for me in the comment section of Josh's, because Neil was one of the ones that stood up for me with some of the, not a whole lot, but there were some people that are not in our group that were giving me some grief, and Neil was one of the ones that stood up for me. So thank you, Neil. I appreciate that.
For the first time anywhere, here's this one.
Rolling.
Hey, y'all. DA from DAExMachiNation. I'm here with Robbie Rip Rains and Steve Wildman Monrotis, and we are boots on the ground in Combs Ferry. We're just getting here. Things are just getting started. We've already heard some interesting noises from the woods, but from here on out, it is all on our own. The boat has left. So it's going to be an interesting night. You could hear the boat pulling away.
Yeah, you could. That's right. I remember it now. We did that when we first stepped out. I forgot we did that because you went across that. I'm like, when did we do that? It was a fun night, other than Steve breaking his leg.
Yeah.
Ironically, Steve's leg was broke in that picture. Because he says he broke it when he broke it when he got off the boat. So, ironically, his leg was already broke.
Moon Valley. I got another one that we recorded down in Moon Valley, but it's too big to upload.
Yeah, now I remember us doing the one in Moon Valley.
Hold on. Looking to see if there's anything else. Any other videos? I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's about it. About all of them.
Yeah. So,
well, that are small enough to upload anyway.
And I'm not saying that when I push back against the cat,
Tasered.
huh?
There's me getting tasered.
Yeah. When I push back against the cat thing, I get it. People weren't there and they didn't see the tree, and it's kind of hard because we were there. We talked about it. That was the first thing out of our mouths. Was it a cat? We all thought the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I walked around the tree, me and Steve both, and I looked. There were no claw marks up that tree at all.
Right.
And because that, like I said, that was everybody that was right there in that. If Wyatt was in the chat tonight, he'd say the same thing because he was right there with me. That was everybody's first inclination is that it was
had to be a cat.
It had to be a cat. And then we went through our process. We started eliminating. Think, okay, well, if it was a cat, where's the claw marks? No claw marks on the tree. Okay, what in Missouri can kill a deer? Okay, wolves, coyotes, bears,
climb,
mountain lion. Okay, so we'd already eliminated mountain lions because there was no claw marks, and the tree was a lot smaller. And the way those limbs, you can see the way the limbs are. That a big cat would have had trouble. Those limbs would have been broke if a big cat had went through there. You get a 150, 200-pound cat went up there would have broke those limbs right off because they were some of them were kind of like right beside each other. There's just no way a big cat could have got through there,
right?
And got above those because he would have had to got at least his head and shoulders above those limbs, and then drop the carcass for it to drop where it was at. So the way those three limbs were there was just no way that. And BC, there was a triple or a double canopy, so there was probably not a whole lot of chance that a bird was going to be able to drop something and it fall perfectly down in there. Could have been, but I don't.
Well, that I know a big cat could feasibly climb a tree like that, but with all those little branches sticking out and none of them being broken off, a big animal would have broken those small branches.
Yep.
Even a bobcat would have had to have broken some of them. Edie Testament says outside the jaguar coming up from South America, someone could have had one and got loose. Yeah, I mentioned that. It's entirely possible it escaped from a private collection or something like that. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't there used to be like a wild animal park down by Branson? I know they had wolves down there, and they had gray wolves at that. And when the place shut down, most of the animals just were left. And I know the wolves got out because that's part of why they're gray wolves on Table Rock Lake now.
Well, Wyatt's in the chat now. Wyatt,
Hey, Wyatt.
we were just talking about the deer hide again, and we were telling everybody that everybody's first inclination down there was big cat, and you were right there with me when we walked around that tree and we looked front, back, side, everywhere for claw marks. Did we not?
I'll bring that same picture back up again with Steve. Let me bring that up again. Since Wyatt's here, I will throw that thing up there.
Yep.
Yeah, with all of these little branches, a big cat would have broken some of those off. I mean, there's just not a lot of room for an animal that big to get through. And that tree is not big. Yeah, Harold Goodell says derailed circus train. Yeah, we don't get too many circus trains in Missouri anymore.
Mm-mm. Especially in the middle of a lake.
Dash 5257 says there was a drive-through animal park about 6 miles from my house. There was a drive-through animal park out in Stratford. It's still there, Wild Animal Safari. But I don't know that I've ever heard of them losing any animals, and I don't think they've got any jaguars. I think they've got lions and tigers, and that's about it. Not that, we'd want one of those to escape. But I know there was some sort of wild animal sanctuary down at Branson. And I just can't for the life of me remember what all animals they had there, because I only went there one time. And God, that would have been 96, 97, somewhere around in there. Kevin, Exotic Animal Paradise is under new owners, and they call it Wild Animal Safari now. That's actually just outside of Springfield, just north of Stratford, out along I-44. Robert D says some of the branches look to be cut off. Yeah, the ones up by Steve's hand do look like they might have been cut. Or at least broken off clean. But, during the day, we have seen people out there at Combs Ferry. It could have been somebody with a machete trying to make a trail. But that still doesn't explain the animal parts in the tree. Or the fish.
Yeah, the Missouri tree trout's still a mystery.
Yeah. I'll bring that up right now. I'll bring up the Missouri tree trout. That little branch definitely wasn't supporting any kind of animal. Look how tiny that is. That's probably the diameter of a quarter.
Let's err on the side of caution and say, it was a cat to put it up there. Where was the sign anywhere else that there was a big cat out there? Because that was fresh.
There's no
the blood was still red.
In fact, the last time we were out there during the day, there was no signs of canine. There was obviously what was large canine scat, but I didn't see any
No.
cat tracks or scat.
Yeah, no feline tracks or any of that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's just weird that that's feline behavior. Yes, I agree, but there's no evidence to show that there was one anywhere around. Because and Doc and Steve said it that night, but Doc's even backed that up, that as hot as it was, for that blood to still be red, it had to be what Doc say within 2-3 hours tops, I think.
Yeah, especially as hot as it was. Yeah,
and the fact that there was, blood on the tree, blood on the ground, fur still on the ground, still meat and gristle on the corpse itself. If it'd been a cat, I think we would have heard it, because we were close to its kill, and usually big cats let you know if you're intruding on their area.
That was an interesting night.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with Chris. A human or some other type of bipedal creature is, in my opinion. Now, am I saying that's 100% accurately what happened? No, I'm just saying, in my opinion, I think it had to be something with opposable thumbs and hands that actually did this. I don't think anything that had that carcass in its mouth could have placed that there like it was.
And especially not the fish. Anywho, you want to do another encounter?
I can do that. Ooh, pull her back up here. All right, this is from. Forgive me if I butcher this. Clackamas County, Oregon, August 10th of 2008. It's another Class A certification. So I'm a little fuzzy as to the exact details, but I do know that we took. I'm assuming this is Highway 224 through Estacada and continued east for at least another hour, then ended up on, I believe, FR 43. Although after that, we took the Bagby Hot Springs Road and several logging roads. Later, we found our first campsite at the end of one of these logging roads. So, the way it sounds is they, once they got off the main thoroughfare, they took a bunch of pig trails and side roads and logging roads. So they were back in the rough and ready area of the woods. They were off the beaten path, so to speak. This was near the end of August, and the year was 2008. A couple of friends and I went camping / Bigfoot hunting in the upper Colawash River in the Oregon Cascade Range of Estacada, with the intention of finding a spot that I'd been told about by a guide on a whitewater rafting trip I had taken with my brother in 2006. Unfortunately, when we got to our destination, I was the only one in our group who wanted to look for Bigfoot. Disappointed but not dissuaded, I tried to keep the rest of the group, 2 guys and 1 girl, at least somewhat interested in the Bigfoot search, to little avail. The first night we camped under much protest, quite a way into the bush and away from the overcrowded campgrounds where everyone felt more comfortable. We followed an old logging road until it ended up in a very secluded spot atop a ridge and maybe 250 to 300 yards directly south of a clear-cut power line that ran east to west. The first night was interesting as we continued to hear distinct wood knocking. It started around 11 p.m. Most were far off and very fast, 4 to 7 quick, sharp cracks directly east of us that would echo across the valley, only to be answered from another direction farther south and then north. But at first, they were pretty far off. Everyone thought they were gunshots, but this was a dark night, and these sounds were coming from pretty deep in a thick forest, accessed only by not well-traveled logging roads, and from at least 3 different sources that, for the life of me, sounded like they were communicating. So I ruled out gunshots. These sounds continued to get closer to our campsite as the night wore on. At one point, maybe 12:30 or 1 a.m., the group wanted to drive over to the power lines where the trees weren't so thick and you could see for several miles. I decided to stay at camp and hope for something to happen. Almost immediately after everyone left, I started hearing sticks breaking from every direction they had driven out on, and everything got real quiet. Now, I'm from Montana and have spent many a night camped alone in far more rugged mountains than I was in now, and have experienced most of the wildlife and at least partially up close and personal that our American forests have to offer. But I gotta tell you, I got a little spooked while they were gone. I did what any self-respecting outdoorsman would do and put a lot more wood on the fire. I didn't have anything at that time that sounded, or I didn't hear anything at that time that sounded too bizarre, but I was glad when everyone got back. My buddy asked me if I was knocking rocks together while they were gone. I told him I hadn't and asked what they had heard. He said that they were out looking over the valley from the top of the road that we came in on, about 250 to 350 yards away, and they all heard distinct knocking coming from the direction of our camp. He said it sounded like rock on rock. Later, after everyone had gone to their tents, I decided to stay up. Around 3:30 a.m., I heard a very low grumble with a huff, followed by what sounded like a lot of breath being pushed out and very close to the fire, maybe 30 feet away. At first, I thought it was a bird or something. Then, almost immediately, another answered the first from across the clearing. We were camped in, directly behind me. I put my flashlight on where I heard it coming from, and it would stop. 10 minutes later, it would start up again. I don't know why I didn't get anyone up to listen with me, but I didn't. This went on for about an hour until the sun started to brighten the sky, and you could see a lot better. I never heard walking or any other sticks breaking, but those grunting noises were close, and they were at least two of whatever was making them. It wasn't until on our way home that my buddy told me that he heard the grunts too, and I love this. I love this part too. He was scared. He was scared to get up and investigate. The next day we went looking for another campground, but I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave, but I was the minority on the subject. And as we were driving down, I believe it was FR 43, my buddy and I and his rig and his friends behind us and theirs, something very big ran across the road about 150 yards in front of us. It was dark brown or black and uniform in color, and at least 8 feet to 9 feet tall and moving like a freight train. It was huge. We only saw it for maybe a second before it tore into the trees, running from right to left. My skeptical buddy looked at me and said, "Did you see that?" I had my video camera in my lap, but there was no way I could have gotten a shot of this thing. It was moving way too fast. We stopped where we thought it crossed the road, and you could see quite clearly where something had come down the incline on the right side of the road. We didn't smell anything, so we got out and I climbed the small incline that had come down to investigate. After 30 minutes or so, I found a barefoot track about 18 inches long by 7.5 inches wide and got video of it. I could send in the video and have other stories of the area as well. We did have material to cast the print, but since it was on mossy ground that covers most of the Oregon forest, my buddy refused to cast the print, claiming that we wouldn't get anything from it. I was furious, but it was his stuff, and I learned the hard way to pack your own gear. Well, that's all on that one.
What do you think of that one?
I think it's a pretty good story. I mean, there's some parts in it that kind of he doesn't go in my opinion, in enough detail. But it sounds to me like that might have been one of the first times he's ever went out. So, every time you go out, it's a learning experience. We've been in that same situation of being out there and finding stuff and not having casting material or not having audio or not having any of this kind of stuff. So, first and foremost, we're not usually out there to prove Bigfoot exists or to get our 15 minutes of fame and show everybody. When we go out, we're going out for ourselves. We enjoy going out there and seeing what we can see and being in the woods and doing this. And if we happen to get something like the pictures of the deer hide in the tree, we'll show it. But that's not our main emphasis when we go out. But I think this guy went out with the intention of trying to find something. But he, like he said at the end of the thing, he learned very quickly, pack your own gear if you want to go out and do this kind of stuff, because you don't know. Like with us, we all know what each other's got, but this sounded like he wanted to hunt Bigfoot and everybody else just wanted to be out there in the woods kind of goofing off. So it's a good encounter though. I mean, especially, the vocals and the knocks or tongue clicks or whatever was going on. And then, the seeing it cross the road, which I mean that's a pretty common occurrence, especially out in that part of Oregon. I'm assuming that's still out in the Cascades, which is
Probably
a very, very hot area for that kind of stuff. So, but there again, some takeaways from that. They was worried about the moss. We know for a fact if you carry cling wrap or something like that, you can put that in the moss and you can still make a cast. You might not pick up the dermal ridges or, any kind of hair or anything that's left in it, but you're still going to get the shape of the footprint. So, but there again, unless you do this kind of stuff and do it all the time, you're not going to know stuff like that. So just kind of, it sounds like
just take a lot of pictures.
Yeah. It sounds like he learned from his mistakes and decided, when I go back out, I'm going to make sure I've got my own stuff.
Well, dude, every time we go out, we learn something.
Yeah. I mean, it's like every time we should have brought this. Dang, we should have brought that. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's always some piece of equipment that you don't have that you could use, you know.
Being stupid. You get a little bit of liquid in the air, the breather hole, it won't pour. Well, the one I've got, I'm going to read. It's not that it's the most exciting of encounters. I picked it for its location. And it's just off of I-40 of 144, 1 mile east of Honnibee, Oklahoma, in Ouachita Mountains, in LaFleur County.
Huh.
Since having had the benefit of finding a footprint when I was 13, my interest in Bigfoot has led me to privately research the subject for many years. Thanks to this website, I've been able to concentrate much of my attention on Oklahoma, since it has many more reports than my native Kansas, which has not been updated. On that note, myself and some other interested participants traveled to LaFleur County in southeast Oklahoma in an attempt to find some evidence, since this area is a hot spot of reported activity. Traveling to Honnibee, we met a few of the locals who were more than willing to provide us with information and possible locations where we might have some type of encounter. Please note that this is near the exact location that the Mysterious Encounters team filmed the Oklahoma Wildman episode. We too visited the house where they set up operations and noticed how the previous occupants had left so abruptly that most of their possessions remained in the home, including a refrigerator full of spoiled food. Having set up camp, we proceeded to stay up until near dawn, occasionally playing the Sierra Bigfoot vocalizations and patrolling the area. Nothing was seen or heard throughout the night. The following day, while we were walking through the area, myself and one other located 3 full footprints and 1 potential track on a road leading up the hillside toward the top of the hill. While we did not apply plaster of Paris to the tracks or accurately measure them, we did take photos, using dollar bills as gauges to measure the length, not only of the footprint, but also the stride between the tracks. I would quite accurately estimate that the prints themselves were over 16 inches long and the stride of nearly 5.5 feet. These tracks were located on a sloping road traveling up towards nearly 40 degrees. Also of note, I understand that many people will disregard such tracks as those of bears or other large animals, but we also took photos of bear tracks and we found near Little River located nearby. Anyone who has any idea what animal tracks look like can tell the difference. They're not even close. These tracks were huge.
Yeah, and they're, like I said, everybody is freaking conditioned to say bear. Bear, 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 bear. Everything's a bear. Everything's a misidentified bear. If we were not conditioned for that, if people just, if there was not this stigma about people being crazy for seeing something like that, it's like, think about the natives in Africa that were seeing the mountain gorilla before it was known. They didn't care what we civilized Westerners thought of them if they were describing, the mountain gorillas they were seeing. They didn't care if we thought they were crazy or not because they saw them every day.
And with the ape.
Yeah, and the Native Americans that just know that these things exist. It seems like it's just a civilized folk. Yeah, civilized folk that have lost our edge and lost our frontiersman's edge of thinking, okay, anything's possible. We get into that. Well, they don't say it on here, so kind of like your analogy about the teaspoon of salt water or of ocean water. It don't exist there, or this says it don't exist. The Googles say it don't exist, and and it just it breaks my heart that people don't get out more and try to experience stuff like this. Because even if you don't find or have the experiences that we have, I mean, just think about the beautiful areas that we walked through and seen some of the things we've seen. It's just, it breaks my heart that people don't do stuff like that anymore.
Right. Even when we go out and don't find a thing, I thoroughly enjoy being out in the woods.
The trouble with us is there's not too many times we go out and we don't find something, though.
We do tend to be shit magnets. Yeah. be it a Bigfoot or creepy doll villages, we're always finding something weird.
Doc, you want to look at? Nope.
Ain't looking. Nope. I'm just gonna keep driving. I tell you, Noah found a local story about that doll village.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, Noah was talking to somebody that used to live out there. They're like, yeah, if you drive by that doll village at night and then turn around and come back by it, stuff will be moved.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell that when you go by it at 95 miles an hour when Doc's driving.
Doc did not slow down.
Because we went by it twice in the same night, but I couldn't tell you if anything was moved tonight because it was like
He's going as fast until he got a glimpse of it. Second time, he weren't slowing down.
that's weird though. Because the first time you and I went out there, you know, when you pointed it out to me, we went by real slow the first time, and we turned around and remember it took us because we were like, no, it's got to be right here, and we both were like, we had to have passed it. There's no way that we hadn't passed it yet. I mean that we still hadn't got to it. We had to have passed it, and then all of a sudden there it is. So it's like the whole village kind of moved, or the whatever it is, not village, but it's almost like the whole dollhouse moved further down the road than what it was.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, that whole area is just flipping weird.
Yeah. Doc's favorite place.
Moon Valley, man, that whole valley is just freaking creepy. And it doesn't surprise me that you guys were on the same river at that BFRO expedition and had all that weird shit happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, the tactical assault possum's coming up to me and saying, help.
That's not usual behavior.
No, I mean, they literally were, they were just standing at my feet looking up at me like, what are you going to do about that big thing back there?
Yeah.
Jay says, Doll Village? Nopey nope.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking creepy. Heard the cat.
Yep.
Wow.
Said hi. She said hello. She's right beside me though, so she'll probably jump up behind or on the chair before it's over with.
I'm looking for some images. Would you mind reading another one while I'm looking for these images?
Surely. I just happen to have a third one pulled up. Now I didn't have time to edit this one like I did the other two or read through it, so bear with me on this one. But it's also another Class A. And this is from Deschutes County, Oregon. July 9th of 2005. On the border of Deschutes and Jefferson counties. Today is June 12th, 2005. My husband and I were around Lake Jefferson, north of Suttles Lake, out fishing and scouting for elk. When we stopped to follow fresh bear and elk tracks, we could smell something very bad in the air and thought that we were too close to the bear, a large bear. We came across a large stump that had some kind of hair all over it. We studied this for some time, trying to figure out what had happened there, as the stump had hair all over it, and it was also all over the ground too. We brought some home with us because it was the strangest fur we had ever felt. This fur was white and very coarse. It was not elk, deer, or any fur that we knew of. We looked on the ground and noticed a set of elk horns that had been dropped. We continued to look down, or we continued down what looked like a game trail, and found a wallah. In it were several footprints from what looked like elk or bear. Also, we saw footprints that were at least 18 inches long and were as wide as my foot. I wear a 6.5 shoe. We followed the tracks and then where they headed down towards the creek. The prints were easy to follow as the elk, or were as easy to follow as the elk and the bear. Also, we saw footprints. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped back up. Sorry. The prints were easy to follow as the ground was clean where they had stepped out, but were surrounded with what looked like splashing of wet fur around each print. We investigated further, though I was scared to death and had noticed that the bushes and the trees or tree branches had been splashed as well with muddy water from the walla. There were tracks everywhere. What made the prints was very, very heavy. The tracks were deep. My husband, who weighs 230 pounds, tried to make the prints that deep by jumping next to some of them and barely dented the ground. My husband, who was a logger at the time and is very familiar with the wilderness, said he had never seen anything like this before and was also astonished. He was curious and wanted to keep investigating, but I was so frightened that I just wanted to get back to the truck. To the best of our reasoning, we figure the tracks were about a day old. It had rained on Friday, and they hadn't dried up, and they had dried enough for us to see them on Sunday afternoon. We usually carry our video camera with us when we go out in the woods, but forgot it on this trip. If it doesn't rain this week, my husband is going back out to film it. He wants to gather more evidence of what is there. I don't know if I can go back though. It may not sound like much in telling this story, but in real life, you could just feel that something very large and strange lives out there, and that we should not be in this place. This made such a lasting impression on both of us that we had to come home and tell someone right away. Tell the difference when I edit it versus when I don't.
Oh. That one's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they actually found, I'd be curious to know if they tried to send that off to somewhere. And quit hitting the microphone, goofball. But that sounds like a good bit of fur that they found.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they ever got that analyzed.
That's what I was saying. I wonder if they sent it off to anybody.
Probably would have sent, broken it up and sent a sample to different people. Maybe Doug Hychek.
Yeah. Well, it was 2005. Was Doug doing stuff then? I can't remember when.
Monster Quest back then.
Okay, I couldn't remember what time Monster Quest, or what year Monster Quest started.
I'm pretty sure he was still doing Monster Quest then. Speaking of Doug, we need to get him back on the show.
Yeah. He's always a interesting show.
I'm not finding those names. They're somewhere. They're probably on one of my external drives. So, sorry, bud. I'm going to have to save those for another time. I thought I had pictures of the doll village. Well, I know I do. I just got to find them.
Yeah, we took pictures when me and you went that time.
I was out there by myself one time and took a bunch of pictures.
Well, like dumb butts, me and you actually got out of the car. And of course, that was before we started doing a lot of investigation about that place. We just got out and started snapping pictures.
Irene says she's got to go to bed. 0400 comes early. Well, good night, Irene. Thank you for being with us.
Good night, Irene.
Jeremy Lee says quality control is checking on you, Robbie.
Yeah. No, it's time for somebody's nap. So the bed is calling. I'm the bed, apparently.
You just volunteered.
Yeah.
I've got one, and this one's kind of unique. It's a dogman sighting in Alaska. It's the only dogman sighting I've heard of in Alaska.
Yeah, there's not too many of those.
Usually it's Bigfoot or Nantinaq or some version of Bigfoot.
Kushtaka.
But I think this is the only Dogman sighting I've heard of from New York, from Alaska, and it's from the Matanuska Valley, Alaska. The sighting happened back in 1988. It says my encounter took place many years ago. I've never had the faintest explanation for it until a couple of months ago, when I randomly stumbled across Dogman on the internet. I was in my early 20s, working swing shifts at the time, and commuting about 100 miles each way. So it was usually around 2 in the morning by the time I got home. I saw the quote-unquote monster, as I called it, on the northernmost section of the trunk road in the Matanuska Valley in Alaska. This area is roughly smack in between the towns of Palmer and Wasilla. I was only about 10 miles from home at that point, so it must have been around 2 a.m. The trunk road is a narrow 2-lane road consisting of nothing but twists and turns. The surrounding terrain is somewhat swampy and thick with black spruce. It was late October, days before Halloween. There was no snow on the ground, but it was cold enough to be wary of ice. I was driving an 82 Subaru SW, going about 20 miles an hour around a curve, when my headlights caught a large, dark figure up ahead. I'm bad at judging distance, maybe 6 car lengths away. I instinctively let off the gas, coasting closer. At first, I assumed it was a moose, but as the area is infested with them. But no, it was standing upright. Bear then. No, not a bear. It looked strange, tall enough to be an uncommonly large bear, but far too slender, and it looked like it had spikes running down its neck and back. A Halloween prop? Odd, but effective place for one. All those thoughts ran through my head in a fraction of a second. The car was still coasting closer, and I could see more details. It was standing in profile, gazing across the road. I could clearly see its wolfish muzzle, large upright ears, and the spikes on its back were in fact clumps of fur. Its spine curved in a smooth, very natural-looking way, and it was standing in the ditch, inches from the pavement. Because I was focused on its upper body, I do not recall anything about its back legs or if it had a tail. I did see its front legs, though, very doggy-looking, hanging awkwardly down and slightly forward of its front, exactly as you'd expect if a dog stood upright. That's kind of like what I saw. While it clearly had a canine look, there was still something off about it that I cannot articulate. It was perfectly still, and at this point, given the proximity of Halloween, I was quite convinced it was some sort of Halloween prop, because it was clearly not any kind of existing animal. I was deeply impressed and gently stepped on the brakes, intending to stop and examine it closely. Then it turned its head toward me. In the tiny fraction of a second that it took for it to swivel its head, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. The fluidness of its movement removed any and all doubt that this was some kind of prop. It was horribly, terrifyingly alive. The pale, off-white glow of its eyeshine in the headlights destroyed any possibility of a human in a costume. I think I sat there gaping in shock for a few seconds, the car barely moving by now, but still inching closer. As I was almost upon it, I think I could have leaned forward and touched the car if it wanted to. I had to look up to see its face. Again, I'm a bad judge of such things. I'm 5'4", and it was a hell of a lot taller than me. Tall like a polar bear standing, maybe 7, 8 feet. I really can't say. I snapped out of my trance and slammed on the gas. The car fishtailed, and I prepared myself for death by monster, as I was certain I'd end up in the ditch. But the tires caught the pavement, and I drove like a complete maniac all the way home. I didn't look back. I've only been on that section of road a few times since, but never alone and never in the dark. For the next several years of driving that commute, I went 20-plus miles out of the way to avoid that road. The thing never made any aggressive moves, but there was something about that it felt very, I don't know, predatory. I never saw anything remotely like it again, and I've never heard any stories about it in the area.
That was weird. Did you say at one point he described it had spikes on its back?
Yeah, we said when he got closer that the spikes turned out to be tufts of hair.
Oh, okay.
Thought he spikes.
I was like, maybe I was just continually thinking about spikes. What could be spikes?
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. An upright dog. It didn't have shoulders like us, but it had the way a dog would slump if it's standing on its hind legs. Harley's not in here, or I get him to come over here and use him as an example. But if you got a dog standing on its hind legs, they don't have shoulders like us. They can bring their paws up and smack the crap out of you. Harley's done that to me a number of times, but their arms don't articulate the way ours do. And now when I saw an LBL, that's the way its shoulders were. It was very much like a dog on its hind legs, and that's the way he described, or she did say, way they described that. And that one just resonates with me. That one creeps me out.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things about it that you could look at and say, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, but because, like you said, there's not a whole lot of dogman sighting, or at least they don't get reported. Let's just put it that way. There may be more than people don't. Maybe a lot of the Kushtaka sightings are actually dogman sightings, but they just
what they call Otterman. Yeah.
I mean, it's possible anyway.
I was thinking at the time that Kushtaka might be a mistaken Gugway, but that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, just throwing it out there. I mean, if you think, because there's plenty of stories that say the Otterman is a shapeshifter and it can appear as different things. It can even appear as, like, if me and you were out there, it could take the form of one of us.
Right.
Because if you think back to that goofy show, Alaskan Monsters, which was a spinoff of Mountain Monsters, they had an episode about the Kushtaka, and it cloned one of, or it was.
That show is so stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, but that's what they did. So, but to me, what would make more sense is, maybe they were just seeing a different, because like you said, what you saw looked more like a mastiff.
Mm-hmm. It had the shape of the head was like wolf-like, but the snout was shorter and blunter.
So maybe there's just a different type, and instead of them, because they didn't have anything to judge by other than river otters up there, that it just became the otter man versus being a dog man.
Hillary, yes, I did get a chance to look into those missing kids in Nova Scotia. I think it was just a case of missing persons. I don't see anything that kind of links that to any kind of cryptid activity. Hey, Tyler Marshall's in the house. He was on the CERT team with me when I worked in the jail. He's a deputy still for Greene County. Hell of a dude. I've punched into a bunch of cells with that guy over the years, and I'll kick a door with him anytime. That is one tough dude. One of the finest officers I ever worked with, too. Hell of a guy. Thanks for being here, brother. I miss you too, brother. But I don't miss the paperwork. I do not miss the paperwork.
Paperwork never gets fun.
Seems to get a little worse every year too.
Yep, it sure does. That's why I like working out.
Because I can't make details of it. There's so many sketchy podcasts out there posting clickbait. They're just, it's just clickbait. But from what I was able to find of the story, I think it's just one of those. Just a case of the kids got lost. Unfortunately, whether or not podcasts want to believe it or not, people do just get lost. Not everything's cryptid related, and that's one of the things we try to do differently. We try to look for explanations before we assume, before we make the jump to cryptid. I mean, Robbie and I've used the analogy many times. You got to go from point A to point B to point C to point D. You can't just go point A to point Z, because one, where have you got to go when you go to the crazy stuff? And I'm not saying cryptid stuff is necessarily crazy, but the example we've used of you show up at a crime scene and you look through the window and see a guy dead by a gunshot, but the house is locked from the inside and there's nobody else in there. You can't just say, well, they must have portaled in. There's other explanations along the way that you've got to go through first. And so we try to logically eliminate stuff before we jump to cryptid or anything along those lines. Just a guy who yaps says CERT. It's spelled CERT, or it's actually they changed it now. It's the DIRT team, DERT, Detentions Emergency Response Team. But back in the day, it was CERT, the Corrections Emergency Response Team. If it wasn't in the wash, I'd show you one of my old CERT shirts. I've still got 2 or 3 of them. Neil Decker says, always try and debunk it first. Exactly. We try to explain what it could be before we start saying, I think this is cryptid related. Miss Lene says, is going to tap out for the night. Well, Miss Lene, we are so happy you're back with us. We've been all been praying for you. Glad you're on the mend. I'm glad you had the strength to be with us this long. And I'm glad you're getting stronger every day. And you have a great night. Tell Jim I said hi. And you just rest and get to feeling better.
Yep.
Robbie, you got any others handy?
Oh, I just had them 3 set up. I mean, I can find one, but I just had those 3. I didn't know we would.
I didn't know we would get this far.
Well, I didn't know that. I figured between the 2 of us, 3 would be enough. So I'll have to go back and find one. Here's one from the Bullet of the Woods Wilderness Park, basically. And I'm not making that up. It's actually the Bullet of the Woods, which is hilarious to me. This from Dusty Rose himself. Not really, but anyway. Oh, sorry. I just pulled up the same one that I just read a minute ago. Sorry.
Way to go, dude.
Yeah. Hey, I told you I didn't have but 3 pulled up. This one's kind of small, but yeah, it's a Class B. I don't want to read a Class B.
I got a Class A. Another one from Alaska. Not a particularly long one, but it's a good one.
Go ahead then, because
okay. Says this was in Cordova, McCarthy County, Alaska. Class A happened during the summer. On the main trail toward the glacier before the stream, about 1 mile past the Kennecott settlement at the abandoned dynamite shaft. My hiking partner and I arrived to the Kennecott area. We were trying to make it to the campsites near the glacier, but it started getting too dark even for us. So we decided to camp at the first available site. We found a small spot right off the trail, so we made camp and hung our supplies in a tree down the trail. Started a fire and were just finishing a small meal when I walked to the trail to smoke. I was standing on the trail a few minutes when I noticed what I thought was a man on a bike coming down the trail. I let my partner know, but when I looked back, it was still in the same spot. I started looking more closely to see a face or the bike or something. It's when I realized it wasn't a person. It was a large dark form standing with its legs spread apart. This is what led me to think it was a person on a bike. The arms were curled closely to see a face. The arms were curled at closely to see if. I didn't obviously edit this one. The arms were curled in closely, making it impossible to see a face or the bike. It was then I realized it wasn't a person. It was a large, dark form, and this is what led. Oh, I just started over on the stupid same sentence. Sorry.
That's what I did earlier.
The arms were curled at its side like someone with hands on on handlebars. Too big for a bear, and the legs were too far apart. I called my partner, but when I turned back to look at it again, it had moved quickly into the woods on 2 legs. The next day, we looked around but found no evidence of anything on the trail. I've told this story to a few people, but they still think I'm crazy. I hope this helps. I know what I saw. I guess I'm hoping somebody believes me. I was just standing on the trail watching them.
I got Dogman sighting from New Brunswick.
Ooh. Read it. Read it. You wild.
It's a short one, but and there again, didn't have time to edit it, so bear with me. Dogman sighting. My grandfather told me this story when I was a teenager. I'm 52 now. My granddad grew up in the woods of central New Brunswick in a very remote area where only survivalists go now. Their whole family lived out in the sticks. They lived by hunting, fishing, trapping, and some logging. Granddad said when he was a teenager, he and his older brother Duke were up in the early hours checking trap lines on an old motorbike. It was early fall. Frost was on the grass, and an early morning mist still hung around the forest edges. He was rolling cigarettes with his brother, and they were out of matches, so they dipped a bit of cloth in the gas tank and ignited it off the coil wire while Duke kicked the bike over. The sound of the bike being kicked over without an ignition is sort of like an animal call. That's how my granddad described it anyways. Just as they started smoking cigarettes, my grandfather noticed something bounding through the tree line towards them. Granddad said it ran in a way like a bear did, but it stopped several yards away from them and stood up on its hind legs. It was still too far away to tell what it was, but they assumed it was a black bear because they are very common in New Brunswick. That's when it began walking upright towards them. As it got nearer, Granddad said it looked like a huge werewolf. His family origin was German, so this was not unknown to him. It got as close as 20 feet away from them and then began to eye them closely. It sniffed their smokes and then turned and hopped back and ran back into the trees. Granddad said that they were not scared. He said they were only shocked that such a creature was living in the woods. Granddad said it was taller than any man, had a huge head, evil eyes, long upright ears, hands with long claws, and had hair all over its body. I can't remember what color he said the fur was, but he said it had wolf-like legs.
That's a rough way to light a cigarette.
It is. Dangerous, too.
Yeah, very dangerous.
Dip a cloth in gasoline and stick it to the coil and kick the bike over. Yeah, that's not
nuts. I've never smoked, so I can't say, but I used to chew, and I can't imagine ever needing a dip so bad I would do something like that.
I mean, that like you said, that's dedication to smoking your cigarette, lighting it that way. Improvise, adapt, overcome, though.
Y'all check out Brett. Check out Brett over at Highway of the Hidden. That is a great show. I've been a guest on there a couple of times. He's mostly on Spotify, but he is expanding onto YouTube now. But go over to his YouTube channel, give him a like, share, and subscribe. If you listen to podcasts on Spotify, he's got a whole bunch of them. But check out Highway of the Hidden. I mean, that's a great show. And my plan is to get him on our show here sometime soon. And he's got some good stories to tell. So definitely check his. If you like our channel, you're gonna like his too, because we're similar in a lot of ways that we're kind of just laid back and just relax and talk. It's not anything heavily structured or overly dramatized. If you like our channel, I think you'll like Highway of the Hidden. You should check them out.
Greg, why does that not surprise me?
What'd Greg say?
He said, I've started a fire by sparking jumper cables and spraying WD-40.
That does not surprise me.
Why that doesn't surprise me is because I've done the same thing.
Well, it's Greg, so really nothing surprises me.
I mean,
One of my cousins, we started a campfire using a 22 shell because couldn't get it to catch, so we broke open a 22 shell and poured the powder out. So I guess I can't say too much. I've redneck engineered a number of things like that myself.
Oh yeah.
Hey man,
Me and my friends have done some stuff with Coleman kerosene lantern fuel that will probably get us arrested in some states.
Probably.
You know, if you put that stuff in a Coke can, turn the Coke can outside, light it, and then just where it's dribbling out and what's coming out is lit, and then you jump on that stuff and let that gas shoot out or that fuel shoot out, it makes a pretty good little homemade flamethrower. You better hope nobody or no thing is in the blast zone. Not that I would know because we did anything like that, but I'm just saying that I bet that would happen if you were to do something like that.
And also, if you get a piece of metal pipe that is just slightly bigger diameter than a beer can, and you set the end of that pipe down in a 5-gallon bucket with concrete, then drill a hole just above the edge of the concrete, you can make a pretty good beer can mortar with black powder. Not that I would know or anything.
Yeah, I can imagine that would.
We were shooting beer cans clear across the field. I bet that thing's still at the bottom of my buddy Bob's pond, because his dad caught us with it and made us throw it in the pond so we wouldn't keep messing with it.
Yeah, I had a couple of tater guns that I had to dismantle. Those things were fun.
Those tater guns are fun.
I need to build me another one of them things. Those were fun.
One thing I'm going to try to start. I want to put a little range in the backyard, and nothing big. I want to start throwing hatchets again.
That's fun.
Do like it. I'll tell you who used to be really good at throwing hatchets. My wife Annette. She was really good at it. I was better with a bow, but she was better with a hatchet. Greg says I've had some almost anti-aircraft tater guns. Depends on how much fuel you put in them.
We had we had a party at my buddy's house one time when we were in college, and he lived in the middle of a dang subdivision. And I'm not gonna say that we were inebriated past the point of what we should have been outside messing with a tater gun, but yeah, we launched some taters clear across the subdivision. He lived at the beginning of it, and we were shooting clear across to the far end of the subdivision. So yeah, 12 o'clock at night, and you hear boom. It's a wonder we didn't hit a house, break a window, hit a car. How that didn't happen, I have no idea. But yeah, we were out there at midnight launching potatoes across the subdivision.
Hillary's got hit it on the head. Says, "Yeah, boys, there's a fine line between redneck ingenuity and hillbilly half-wit. My husband being partial to the latter. Yeah, you ask my wife; she'll tell you I'm more of the latter as well."
Yeah. Yeah. You know, famous last words of redneck are.
There's a little too strong for a tater gun.
You know what the last words of most rednecks are, don't you?
Hold my beer.
No, y'all watch this shit.
You definitely.
Hold my beer will be second. Number one is y'all watch this shit. Number two is hold my beer.
Oh, check this out. Steve Padden sent this to me. If anybody wants to get me for my birthday, there is a plot of land just out 25 acres for sale. No restrictions, mature trees, road access, power and high speed fiber optic internet available. And it's right outside of LBL.
Nice.
would so live there. 25 acres of land for sale in Tennessee. That is freaking awesome. That'd be ground zero, base camp 1 for us to make launch expeditions.
RBC. Bonus points for anybody in the chat who knows what RBC stands for. See if anybody gets it.
Hillary says Dogman included. Probably. If it's right outside LBL, yeah.
Of course. Robert D got it. Redneck Base Camp.
There you go. I was waiting to see if anybody said something. So technically, I was born at 3:30 in the morning. So my actual birth hour is coming up in about 6 hours. Price on the land, I think it's $154,000 or something like that. Let me look again. $152K.
That's actually how many acres you say? How much?
25 acres.
That ain't bad.
No, it really ain't. I would love to have that. Annette, not so much. Yeah, Annette would not be thrilled about that, but like I said, if we had it, that'd be base camp 1, not necessarily anything else. That would be our kickoff point for expeditions into the LBL.
Hell, I moved out there and put a camper on it and watch it for you, and you just come out there whenever you wanted to.
Yeah, and it's only like, I want to say 6 hours from here, so it's really not that bad of a drive.
Yeah, that LBL is usually about the midway point when I'm coming to see you. Usually when I hit that, I know I'm almost halfway there.
Doc's got a camp. We could probably equip that place pretty fast. Go out there and build some bushcraft shelters.
Mm-hmm. Basically, I just do like an old deer camp set up, some bunk houses and things like that.
Greg says if he hits the Powerball, we'll have land everywhere to go. Heck yeah. Alfonso Valadez said happy birthday. Hey, thank you, man. And for UPD says time for a GoFundMe. Dude, I would love to own that. Was that Chris Burkhart says I got 40 for 82K, 16 acres, field and rent 24 woods, and not bad. Multiple campgrounds. Hell yeah, Greg. There's a couple of campgrounds, private campgrounds on Table Rock Lake that are for sale. One of them's got like 8 cabins and like 60 some on campsites. I told Annette we need to buy this. She's like, no, we do not. Come on.
Though, we wouldn't need to GoFundMe if somebody would just call Netflix or Hulu and.
Yeah, because I could just ring them up and say, hey, guess what? You're making all my books into movies. Cut me a check.
I mean,
I would love to. I don't even think that.
We may have to. But hey, look.
Thank you.
We got these 2 series that we think that you're just missing out because you're not putting them and making them into movies. You're just missing out on printing your own cash. I mean, it is what it is.
And if they did, though, I would hope they would get somebody like the production crew that does Reacher or
Terminal List.
Somebody who would do it seriously, not turn it into some sort of joke. Wyatt says you would make your money back on the cabins. Probably, you could probably pay the note just off renting the cabins. And if we did get it, we would have a built-in place to have a yearly meet and greet.
Mm-hmm. Because it'd be great to have a place just outside the park like that where you wouldn't have to worry about if you had enough acreage where people could come in and have.
You live here.
Yeah, we would just have enough room where people could pull in and they could camp there. And then if people want to drive into the LBL, it's right there. But you ain't got to worry about.
And if you're real close to it, you could just send drones in. Because Robbie knows a guy.
Oh, yeah. My old partner who came back.
Arkansas Hog Cutter says he'd be down for that. He'd donate his time. Dude, if I could come up with the money to get that, dude, yeah. If to be completely honest, I'd be thrilled as hell to own that campground. I've got to look and see if the listing is still there, but it's not in the main tourist area. But if you really put the word out to like the Bigfoot community, I guarantee you would make that a far more popular campground than it's ever been. Because it's not like down by the Kimberling City tourist area. It's closer. I want to say that it's closer to Cassville, down that end toward the lake, but it's not right on the main parts of like Branson. But it'd be more for people who really didn't give a crap about going to all the Branson shows and went camping because they actually wanted to camp. Yeah. Brent says, I think it'd be a great show. Who would play Margolin? Ben, there's a number of smart asses that can play Margolin. Judy, thank you. I'm sure Annette's got something a surprise planned for me. Northwest Native Tracker says Bigfoot tourist industry. I think we could turn that into like Camp Bigfoot. Robin Ray says we looked into houses in Dover, Tennessee. In the early 2000s, we almost bought one 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,100 square feet, 8 acres for $82,000. That was a steal. I'll tell you what, folks. They will be a standing invite for a Bigfoot outing if I can ever talk Annette into and letting us buy that, because I think we could buy it. She just really, I think she's kind of away from the idea because we would lose our fiber internet. There'd be no fiber internet down there. But with Starlink, I mean, you're still getting almost as fast. Thank you, Eric. I just hope I get spoiled rotten. I'm pretty happy if I get taken out for food. I'm a cheap date. Feed me, Seymour. Daniel, thank you. Tell Drake I said thank you too. Getting a bunch of happy birthdays. Thank you, folks. Greg says, DA, I need to book you a fishing trip with Lucas Black, the actor from Sling Blade. I like him as an actor. I think he's really cool. He charters bass trips here on the lake where I live. You could go and sell him on your books. Dude, that would be flipping awesome. Or, if you happen to run into the guy, give him a copy. Give him Lakeview Man or Odin's Call. See if we can get him hooked. Arkansas Hog Hunter says instead of calling it Indian Point, call it Dogman Point. Well, it would be on the same side of the lake as Joe Bald, so just saying. I'm going to do something real quick. Yeah, it's still available. Oh, no, this is a different one. This is called the Tall Pines Campground. This one's closer to Branson. It's in Taney County. I'd have to do some digging. I wonder if we could get. And well, they've shut down the city of Kimberling City, but wouldn't it be freaking awesome if we could get the Army Corps of Engineers to sell us Joe Bald?
Oh man, Imagine we'd have to have a good amount of money to get that to happen. But it would be fun.
It would certainly be interesting. Roxanne says, DA, you turning 40 years old tomorrow? Yeah, 40 plus. I'll be 55 in a few hours. And I'm feeling it. You know what they say? It ain't the years, it's the mileage. Well, get a little long in the tooth, but I still feel like, mentally, I feel like I'm 25. But my body's like, oh, no, you ain't. Pretty, yeah, we're still wanting to plan that, but what the problem is I've got to get down for Moon Valley. I've got to go down to Dallas County's courthouse and find out who owns the land on the old campground and see if we can get permission to use the old campground, because the area that is public use on Moon Valley ain't big enough to camp. It's just a small parking area. So the trick is finding out who's gotten the land and or getting permission to camp down there. But that used to be a campground. I mean, there's still picnic tables and stuff. You can still see them sitting back in the trees. But if we can get permission to camp down there, I'd like to host something and see how many people we can get to come down there, come down to Moon Valley, and we could fish and probably couldn't hunt unless it's depending on what time of year. But we could definitely fish because the Niangwa's right there, and have a bonfire at night and tell stories. And I think it'd be a good time. So yeah, we're still working on that.
I don't know if I want to camp out all night in Moon Valley.
If there's a bunch of us down there, I don't think anything's going to happen. Arlen Neal says, D 20th, I'll be 74. Another Gemini, man.
You have seen the Wrong Turn movies, have you not?
Yeah, true. But I'd also say that, you know, we would be armed to the teeth, would be putting it lightly.
That sheriff was armed too, and he took an arrow through the eyeball. Just saying. Now, maybe his situational awareness was not as good as some of the ours.
That was also me, Robbie.
I know, but this is real life we're talking about that really happened. You know how I feel about that place. That place creeps me out. And I don't get scared about anything.
Would you rather camp at Joe Bald?
Mm-hmm.
You would actually rather camp at Joe Bald than
100%. I'll camp at Combs Ferry before I'll camp at Moon Valley. I'm not scared of Bigfoot and Dogman. Those are creatures or animals, whatever. They're doing what they're going to do. Them weirdos up there are unpredictable.
Why? It's
plus the fact that you're not just worried at Combs Ferry or Joe Bald. You're just worried about whatever creatures are up there. That's all you got to worry about. It ain't all you got to worry about at Moon Valley. You got to worry about
Combs at a Joe Bald. You also got to worry about 24-hour surveillance vans.
Yeah, but they ain't gonna come try to eat you. They might try to kick you out or arrest you or something like that, but they're not gonna try to eat you. You know, they won't.
We're digging. If I can find a campground that's willing to host us, I do want to do a meet and greet. See how many. If any, let me know if in the chat, just you can say yeah or I'm interested or something like that. Just let me know what kind of interest we would have, because we couldn't do it if we, weren't going to get enough people to warrant renting out a significant chunk, if not all, of a campground.
And you,
yeah, says Robbie, fear the industrial strength tweaker hellbilly.
Doc would feel the exact same way as I do. Because we were actually looking at places like, oh yeah, we could camp right here on Combs Ferry, but I don't know if I'd camp at Moon Valley. Combs Ferry or Joe Bald, anytime, no problem. I'd camp there by myself.
I'm gonna and find a campground that we can basically take over for the weekend or whatever. Roxanne says, I'll be there. Just name the dates and times. Janine said she'd go. Arlen says Arkansas says he'll camp almost anywhere as long as he's got the Lord on his side and his special ammunition. Greg says, where is that place? You mean Moon Valley? That's here in Missouri, bud. Yeah, I'll tell you some stories one of these days, and including some stuff I can't talk about on the air yet. I'll have to give you a call, though. N4 UPD says, Moon Valley is full of mojo. That's putting it mildly. Yoshi says, I'd give it a try and camp there. Knightley says, a 500 Magnum Arkansas. Jenkins has got one. I just shot one the other day. Speaking of that, hold on just a second. Dude, give me just a second. I might be able to upload another video. Camera roll. Just a second here. I really hope I actually got that video on here. It's not looking like... Oh, there it is. Okay. Here we go. I think we're fixing to get demonetized.
1, rolling.
Going hot. That's the 500 Magnum. I got the video of me shooting the Desert Eagle 50 too. That one's a little funnier because the first time that one recoils, I just go, Jesus Christ. Robbie's not wrong. You guys, until you've been there, you just don't understand how creepy.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this to be mean or anything, but there's a lot of big talkers in it. DA will tell you, I walk headlong anywhere in the woods. Stuff don't bother me. That place bothers me. I'm telling y'all, if you ain't ever been there, you don't understand the level of creeping. Doc doesn't get scared.
Miles
DA doesn't get scared. That place creeps the three of us out, and the three of us are usually armed to the teeth. I'm telling you, I wouldn't camp. Y'all camp there if you want to. I'm not camping. I'll go there and investigate. I'm not staying there all night. I'm not closing my eyes and sleeping at that place. I'm not. I'll sleep by myself and go ball. Or
not in a long time. I mean, it was the 80s last time I camped there. And Janine says, I was raised around creepy. I'd love to go.
Going and staying and sleeping are completely different things. I'll go and I'll do an investigation. I ain't worried about that part of it. But I ain't staying there.
We can take a group down there. Agent Dog says, I went down Highway 666 at night and seen something keeping up with his semi. Okay, screw that. That's a big pass. Wyatt, thanks for typing that out. I was just getting ready to say that, and I looked up and said you'd already done it. I guess Neil's heading for bed. Good night, Neil.
Well, we are over the 2-hour mark, so. Night, Neil.
We are over the 2-hour mark and probably ought to start winding things down. And Cajun says sleeping shifts. Yeah, there's some flat out creepy places, and there's a couple of places I haven't had the nerve to go to yet because I won't go without a group. I've got some. We were hoping that Robbie and Doc would have been here this week, but Doc couldn't make it, so we had to postpone the trip. But later, when Doc and Robbie are able to get here, we're gonna. And it's not just going to be the three of us. Noah's probably going to be at work because he's working a lot of hours anymore. But I'll probably take Jenkins and maybe a few other former cops I know. Wyatt will definitely be involved. Maybe a few others, but there'll be a group of us going to some of these places because one, they're in the butt crack of nowhere, and two, they both have history of violent encounters. Antonio Vasquez says, Robbie, I saw your show at What Lurks Beneath. You is a celebrity now.
I mean,
yeah, he's got a few more subs than us. I don't know, 970,000 ish. Just a few.
yeah, just a few.
He could lose the number of subscribers we have, and probably not notice.
Although we are closing in on 10K.
Yeah, we are getting close. We're about 400 away from 10K. By the way, everybody, Tuesday night we're going to be on Old Country Cryptids.
Yes,
Me and Rob,
Old Line Cryptids.
Line Cryptids. Robbie and I be on Old Line Cryptids on Tuesday for their 50th show. So you guys set your reminders. We'll be there on Tuesday night. Of course, we'll be back here on Wednesday night. But make sure you guys go by and show them some love. This is a big milestone for them, their 50th show. So we're looking forward to that, and really thrilled and honored that they would invite us to be part of it. So look for us there, and again, look for us here on Wednesday night. And N4 UPD says, wouldn't say it hurt to say a prayer before you camp. Yeah, and we burn some sage and some tobacco. Hillary says, we could take my mom. Neither man nor beast can last long if she's mad. Sounds like someone else I know. I was going to say something else. We're coming up at 10:10 almost. Where Robbie's got 11 o'clock tomorrow, but thank God tomorrow's Sunday, so he doesn't have to work. But we're going to start winding things down. Gotta go in and hang out with the wife, and probably go to bed so we can get up early and go do some stuff for my birthday. And we have a tradition in our house. We always, whoever's birthday it is, we all take them out. We take them out to eat. And the birthday person always gets to pick the restaurant, and I'm not sure where I want to go yet. I've been thinking about it. There's a place here in town, over on Commercial Street called Lindbergh's, and they've got some really good food. There's another place in town called Dublin's Pass that I really like, I don't know yet. I haven't decided, but I know a lot of stuff sounds good. To be honest, I'd be really happy if just to grill steaks here at the house. A good grilled steak. That's about my favorite meal. Hillary says, DA, don't offer up any photos on Old Line. We had a rather crooked... Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard about that. No, I won't be sending in any selfies like that. I won't be putting any of those up. But I might give them some of our images from like Joe Bald and stuff if they want them. Hope y'all take a second, hit that like, share, and subscribe. The what's the word I'm looking for? The analytics, that's the word I'm looking for, are still showing that about half of the people that watch the videos are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed to the video and you've enjoyed our content, please hit that like and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel, but it sure helps us out. And once we break that 10,000 subscriber mark, it really helps us get into the algorithm more. And I think we're going to start seeing some excellent growth in the channel. But 10K is kind of a breaking point, kind of a tipping point. So definitely, if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We would sure appreciate it. We will be back on Wednesday night. Again, we'll be on Old Line Cryptids on Tuesday night. What's up?
Look in the chat. Look what Eric just said.
I'm not seeing it.
Says, I found some new info there yesterday.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Yeah. Eric, I was supposed to call Eric about that today, and I forgot all about it. Eric, I'll try to call you either tomorrow or we'll set up a time to chat. If you're going to be up for a while, Eric, if you're going to be up for a while, I might give you a call since we're off. But Eric, let me know if you're going to be up for a bit, or shoot me a text and let me know if you're going to be up for a bit. and I may give you a call as soon as we're off the show. But appreciate all the birthday wishes. Again, folks, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We sure appreciate it, and it would help us continue to grow the channel. I am like all but finished wrapping up the final chapter of Lakeview Man Dead of Winter. It's got to go through edits, and I'm still waiting on the cover. Got a new cover artist. Had some issues with the I won't get into, but it's had some issues, and now I've got a different cover artist. Hoping that we get a pretty quick turnaround time on that. But I would definitely like to get that cover done and get that book out soon. I was hoping to have it out for my birthday, but that's clearly not going to make it. We will hopefully have that out soon. Robbie also has a new book that is rapidly climbing. It's over 30,000 words now, and that one is called what, Robbie?
That one's Shadow Walker's Terror of the Wampus Cat.
And folks, I'm telling you, I've been happy to watch Robbie's progress. He is really evolving as a writer. He's learning a lot of the lessons that took me 10 books to learn. So the evolution of his character development is coming along great. And this third book is the best of the three so far. I mean, I liked all of them, don't get me wrong, but this third one has really kind of got me like, oh man, what's going to happen next? This one's special. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And be looking for that, that one coming out probably in the next few weeks. And definitely.
I'm hoping to get, if not done next week, by the week after, because we got that little reading camp starting up at school. So I'm going to have a whole lot of time to kind of sit and do. So I got 2.5 chapters done on Friday. So if I can get, I'm on chapter 14 now and 30,000 words. So I can get done by next week. And if I can get done next week, then it's just a matter of cover and edits and things like that. And maybe next week or two, book 3 will be out. And like DA said, there's some big surprises getting dropped in this one.
And it is really good. And I'm thrilled to be part of the journey with Robbie as he's starting his writing career. And like I said, he's already like learned a lot of the lessons that it took me a lot of books to learn. And I'm really happy to see his progress, and he's continuing to improve his craft. And I think by the time he's got book 4 or book 5 out, he's going to be really blowing your minds. He's doing a great job, great characterizations, really, really building the backstory. And these are very relatable, very interesting characters. And I'm not just saying that because I'm one of them. I'm saying that because it's really entertaining reading.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem, brother. But folks, again, thank you guys for the happy birthdays, and I really appreciate that. And we'll be looking for both a book from Robbie and from me coming real soon. And hopefully this next week, next week we'll have Doc and Steve back with us. Don't forget to check out the good folks over at Sigwo Arms. Sigwo is our latest of our affiliates, and they do custom work, do some pretty amazing stuff. They do you remember that pew pew you found on
PSA?
PSA?
The one I sent you?
The little one? Mm-hmm. I took it in and showed it to Cody. And he's like, "Is that what you want for yours?" I'm like, "Yes." So he's going to build that basically for my Codename Wild Hunt build.
You're just going to have him do it in the 300 because that was a 5.56 that I sent you.
I think I'm going to have him do it in the 5.56 to be honest. That way I don't have to have extra ammo. I can use the same magazines. I think I'm just going to have him do it in the 5.56. Pancho Zort says, just winding down from the Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival in Stanton, Kentucky. It was a great event. Finished up with a tribute concert to Keith Whitley. Very cool. Wish I'd have been there for that. That sounds fun. But folks, again, we thank you guys so much for you guys hanging out with us, spending time with us. And, we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We're glad to have you guys as part of the family. Don't forget to again check out Robbie's books. You can even follow him on Amazon so you get an alert anytime that that he puts out a new book. You just go to his author page on Amazon. Just look up Robbie Jed Rains. You go to his author page, click follow. You can do the same with mine, and those would be much appreciated. And you also get alerted anytime we put anything new out. So, folks, again, can't thank you guys enough. Appreciate all the happy birthday wishes, and I also want to mention the 22 a Day Foundation. I can't wear these bracelets, these little. I can't wear those because they break me out for some reason. But I've got a paracord one, but it's still packed. I haven't unpacked all my boxes from moving back into the house. But I keep those handy. I had one on my mic and got one on my thermal mug. Remember the 22 a Day Foundation. We're losing 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. And it is preventable. We're not doing enough for people, men and women in uniform. So reach out to your friends and family who are veterans or active duty. Reach out to the first responders that you know. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care, because 22 a day is 22 too many. And don't let the hard days win, folks. Because at least 22 times a day, the hard days are winning. And let's get that number down to 0. So I'm going to wind her down with the toast. I'm going to take my hat off for that. Is my mic? Did my mic go dead? Were you hearing me?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Oh.
I thought it was mine though. That's why I didn't say anything.
You can turn this mic off by tapping the top. Apparently, I did it when I was taking my hat off. I'll start over. We'll close her out with the toast, and it's from a song called "The Parting Glass." And if you guys aren't familiar with the song, I hope you'll go on YouTube and listen. It's a beautiful tune. But the quote says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Slàinte mhath. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for the birthday wishes, and we will see you guys Tuesday on Old Line Cryptids and Wednesday back here. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. God bless all of you.
Slàinte.
Slàinte.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAExMachiNation. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.